Hey everybody, I'm Carrie from Two Rebels Off Grid. Today's video is going to be all about delicious banana bread. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. So as you can see, it's just me today. Doug actually has been having to work a ton of extra hours because his work, like a lot of places, are very short-staffed. So I'm going to try doing this video by myself. I want to share with you my favorite banana bread recipe. I've been making it for years. My kids both love it. And it works great actually for traditional flour. It also works really well with gluten-free flour. My daughter, who is now 19, is very gluten intolerant. She just can't do it. It makes her sick. So I make this recipe both ways. Today, I'm actually making it with just regular traditional flour, and I really like this Bob's Red Mill flour. So I'll be using that in today's recipe. We're really wanting to share these recipes with our kids, so hopefully some of you will get something out of it. But if not, we're really posting these for our kids so that they have all our recipes in one place and the instructions on how to make things and the ingredient list. I will post all the ingredients at the end of the video, so don't stress out about trying to write everything down. And as I go, I'll tell you what the measurements are, but stay tuned to the end and you can screenshot. I'll have the ingredients list on there and you're welcome to use that. So anyhow, we're gonna go ahead and start out with the most important part, which is the bananas. Now, I'm gonna do actually 2.5 bananas. I like a little extra banana in the banana bread. So the original recipe calls for 2, but I like to do 2.5. These bananas are not looking so great, right? They actually might look kind of gross to you, but they're actually perfect. So when bananas start to turn brown, that's really when you really want to use them in your banana bread, because you want to use them when they're very, very ripe and all their sugars are coming out. So that happens when the bananas start to turn brown. So what I do with my bananas, and the reason why they look like this and why they're so uniformly brown, is because as soon as my bananas start to turn, I grab them and I either throw them in the fridge or the freezer. And they keep really well in there, but when you put them in the fridge or the freezer, it will make them oxidize and turn this solid brown color. They're soft, but they're not like mushy gross. So you want them to be soft and very ripe. Now, if you put them in the freezer, that would be if you want to use them, maybe a month down the road. I put them in the fridge if I'm planning on using them, just within a few days or a week. So these have been in the fridge for about a week. So we're going to go ahead and start by mashing 2.5 of these up in my bowl here. And if you see brown spots on your banana, as long as they're not like really, really dark, it's totally fine. It won't hurt the banana bread, and it actually, and here's a good example of one. It's actually not a bad thing. So here's a brown spot. Don't worry about it, mash it in. It's not gonna hurt you. I just wanna get the whole peel off, and then we'll do this one. I love watching cooking videos on YouTube, and I get some really great ideas from other people. So I'm hoping that you guys will enjoy these cooking videos. And if it's not something you enjoy and it's just not your jam, then just skip on over it and go to the next video. No worries at all. So I've got my other half of banana, and I'm actually going to save the other half of this for a smoothie later on this afternoon. So I'm going to set that over there. So I'm going to go ahead and use my masher and get these all mashed up. You want them to be almost, and I'll show you here when I'm done mashing them, but you want them to be almost kind of like a soupy consistency, because you don't want big chunks of banana in your banana bread. You want it to be nice and smooth and get that banana flavor all through the banana bread. The other thing with banana bread is it is kind of something that you can alter it and kind of make it your own. I love to put chocolate chips in my banana bread, and that's something that my family likes too. I don't have any chocolate chips right now, but if I did, I'd throw in probably maybe about 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup, make it extra chocolatey. So that's something you can do. Some people like peanut butter and banana together. So what you could do is substitute one of those bananas for maybe about a cup, maybe 3/4 of a cup of peanut butter, and that would actually be really good too. So it'd be make it peanut butter banana bread. So this is almost mashed up. I mean, you really want it to look like baby food. I know that's gross, but that's how you want it to be. So that's what it looks like. Hopefully you can see that. It's pretty pudding consistency, which is what you want. Okay, so we've got that in there. Throw that in the sink. And the next thing you're going to put into this is going to be your eggs. We've got chickens here on our urban farmstead, and we get a ton of eggs. We are allowed to have 5 chickens here in the city, and we feed them really well. They eat an all organic, non-GMO diet, so we love the eggs. They make the best eggs, and if you haven't had fresh eggs like that aren't mass produced, it's well worth it. Chickens are so easy to keep, and if you set their kennel, or their chicken coop up right and make it really safe for them, they're great. And here in the Denver metro area, we get very, very hot temperatures in the summer, sometimes up to 105, and then in the winter we get pretty cold. Not crazy below freezing temperatures, but we get freezing and usually around 20 or 25. And the chicken breeds that we have do great in that. So one of the breeds that we have is called an Easter egger, and I waited to crack this because I wanted to show it to you. This is the color of one of the eggs. The other eggs that we usually get a brown, varying shades of brown eggs, but the Easter eggers make these really cool, this is kind of a light green color. Sometimes we'll get blue eggs, light blue eggs, and they're just kind of fun and different. So these are right from our own chickens, and we're going to go ahead and do 1 whole egg and then 1 egg white. So you don't want to actually have 2 egg whites or egg yolks in there because it'll make it too much of a it'll dry it out kind of. So we're going to do 1 egg, and you can see it's amazing. The backyard chickens, you can hopefully see that they make such a dark yellow orange almost color yolk, which is awesome because it means it's got extra vitamins and nutrients in it, and they're just better for you. So that's going to be the whole egg, and then we're going to do just an egg white. And usually I would save the yolk for something else, but I'm actually not going to today, so we'll just do an quick egg white here. Put that in there. And then we'll go ahead and dump that in there. I crack my eggs into a bowl first before I put them in there. We usually don't get bad eggs, but every once in a while one of them gets in a corner and gets forgotten about, and especially during the summer it might get too warm and it could spoil. So I crack them into there. You can tell when they're spoiled. They get almost like a red color to the whites, and they smell bad. Like you can't miss it. But so I always like to crack it in because I don't want to mess up the rest of the ingredients that I've already put in here with a spoiled egg. So they go in a bowl first and then get put in there. So next ingredient, we're going to do 6 tablespoons of butter, and I use unsalted butter when I'm baking because I don't like to use salted in my baking because sometimes it adds too much salt and it can kind of mess up the flavor. So we're doing unsalted. I'm just going to throw this in my microwave and melt it down. All right, and while that's in there, we're going to go ahead and add in 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. And I like to use an organic vanilla. This one I get from a co-op. It's organic vanilla extract. So we're going to do 1.5 teaspoons of that. Ish. Nothing has to be perfect, you know. Sometimes baking, you just can sometimes eyeball it. Sometimes I don't use my measuring spoons. But that's going to be next. I'm just going to dry that off because I'm going to use that in my next ingredients. So we've got that. So we're going to go ahead and do 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Now sometimes recipes will call for you to mix all the wet ingredients together and then sift the dry together and then kind of mix that in. I don't do it that way because I don't like to dirty up more than 1 bowl. So I'm going to do it the way I do it, and it works pretty well. So that's going to be a teaspoon of baking soda. And then we're going to do a half a teaspoon of salt. I usually use kosher salt, but because of all the shortages that we're having right now, I had to get just regular table salt. I couldn't find my kosher salt that I usually use. So half a teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to do about a quarter teaspoon of baking powder. So that's about a quarter teaspoon. And we've got a half a cup of granulated sugar. And this probably looks a little bit browner maybe than if you use regular bleached granulated sugar. I like to use organic pure cane sugar, so it's got more of a brown color to it. It kind of looks more like sugar in the raw, but that's not what this is. But I'm going to throw that in there. And then we're going to throw in a half to 3/4 of a cup of packed brown sugar. So when they say packed, you put the brown sugar in there and then you smush it down. I just use a spoon and smash it because it's got a lot of air in it, and so you got to smash it together to get the right measurement. So that's going to go in there. Oops. And we need the butter. Let me grab that. I'm going to actually mix this before I add the butter because the butter is warm, and what we don't want the butter to do is hit the eggs directly because it actually could cook the eggs. So we don't want to have scrambled eggs in our banana bread. At least I don't. So I'm going to just kind of mix this up, and that'll kind of evenly disperse the egg, and then so when the butter goes in there, it won't hopefully cook it like it could. Kind of got to break up the brown sugar and stuff too. So. I've got beaters that I could use, but I didn't want to use my electric beater because it's really, really loud. And sometimes it's just easier to whip it out by hand. Okay, so that's good and mixed up. I'm just going to go ahead and pour all the butter in. That's stirred in. I'm going to actually go ahead and start adding the flour in. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to alternate the flour with my special ingredient, which is heavy whipping cream. The heavy whipping cream makes all the difference in the world to how your banana bread is going to be. It puts so much moisture back into it, and it also just makes it really rich and delicious. And I will never make it without using heavy whipping cream. So that will be the thing that really makes it good. So I'm just going to go ahead and start adding my flour in. And I'll just do a little bit at a time so I don't get big clumps kind of. So we'll mix in a little flour. And then I'll go ahead and do just a tad of the milk or the heavy cream. You could use whole milk too if you don't have heavy cream. Heavy cream would definitely be better, but in a pinch if you don't have heavy cream, which could happen because lately when I've been going to the store, they're always out of something, that I need that's kind of a main staple, such as heavy cream. I think it's windy outside today, so Willow, our bigger dog, keeps doing what I call puffing, and you can probably hear her in the background. Hopefully she doesn't go into a full bark, because she's doing a lot of puffing because she just hears everything. She's so funny. Okay. Do a little bit more cream. So I'm going to go ahead and finish stirring this all up and then get them into my prepared loaf pans. I've just coated a couple of, I'm just making one loaf today. I've coated a loaf pan with butter pretty heavily, and once I get this all mixed together, I'm going to go ahead and pour it into the loaf pan and get it baked. It's going to go into a 350 oven. I'm going to kind of check it as I go because we live in Denver. Sometimes depending on what the humidity is and then also the elevation, it can make a difference in how long you should be baking for. So I've found the best thing to do is just check it every 20 minutes. Typically this bread takes about 45 minutes to bake, And what you'll want to do is just bake it until a knife or cake tester comes out pretty clean. It doesn't have to be totally clean. You know, if you really like that really moist banana bread, you don't have to cook it till it's completely perfectly clean when it comes out. So I'll be doing that. I'm going to finish mixing this and then I'll be back in just a few. Alright, so I've got it ready to go in the buttered loaf pan. One other thing I just wanted to mention real quick is if you like nuts in your bread, in your banana bread, you can mix those in too. I didn't do any nuts in here, but usually you'd want to do maybe a half a cup or 3/4 of a cup of walnuts are great in banana bread, or pecans are also really good in banana bread. So if you're somebody that likes that, you mix that in the end, obviously, before you throw it in the pan. So I'm going to go ahead and bake this. I'll check it. I think I'm going to go ahead and check it after 30 minutes and see where we're at, and then I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. And I'm going to pop the ingredient list up here in just a sec. Alright, so I've got it ready to go in the buttered loaf pan. One other thing I just wanted to mention real quick is if you like nuts in your bread, in your banana bread, you can mix those in too. I didn't do any nuts in here, but usually you'd want to do maybe a half a cup or 3/4 of a cup of walnuts are great in banana bread, or pecans are also really good in banana bread. So if you're somebody that likes that, you mix that in the end, obviously, before you throw it in the pan. So I'm going to go ahead and bake this. I'll check it. I think I'm going to go ahead and check it after 30 minutes and see where we're at, and then I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. And I'm going to pop the ingredient list up here in just a sec. Hey, welcome back. So we're out of the oven and it's a nice golden brown. I wanted to show you what I was talking about with my knife test, so I'm going to get a little bit close and you can see that. To me would be what I'd be looking for. I don't want it to be totally clean, because if you cook it too long it can dry it out, and in my opinion it's just not as good that way. So you want to look for a pretty clean test when you do your knife test. So that's it on the banana bread. Thanks for joining today. Go ahead and get ready. You can take a screenshot if you want. I'm going to put the ingredient list up here, and see you soon.